New car in the garage. So a friend of mine called me up and asked me if I would take a look at his Lotus for him. He bought this car not too long ago, and it's a beautiful 1978 silver Lotus Esprit S2. Really good looking car. It was painted about, not original paint, it was painted about 4 years ago. The paint still holds up pretty well. He's got two problems he wants me to look at. Number one, it started overheating recently, suddenly and extremely, really bad. Smoking, knocking, the whole 9 yards. And it's also got some really wicked oil leaks. So we're going to take a look at that and see if we can't fix those problems for him. And if we're successful there, he might do a few other things to the car. So I thought we'd do some, videos on this and let you guys kind of follow along and see how we tackle the overheating and see how I tackle the oil leaks. And it should be cool, right? Kind of excited. So with that, actually I'll show you guys around the car first because it's a really good looking car. All right, let's do that. All right, camera's in hand. I'm just going to try to walk closer while I keep this as still as I can so you guys don't get seasick. All right, so interior is a nice tan color, right? I think it goes good with the silver. And it's all original on the inside, and it's in really good condition too. For a 1978, I think it looks really, really good. Missing the leather on the shifter right there. See, look at the seat. I think the seat's in great condition. Now, check it out. The owner is a tall dude, right? So you're looking at the driver's seat going, what the hell, where's the driver's seat? Well, he fabricated a custom little seat for him. So he's basically sitting on the floor because he's, like I said, he's very tall, but he loves the Esprits. He loves the look of the S2 and wants to enjoy the car. But he had a hard time fitting in the car. So he found a solution to that, which I think is awesome. And it works. So very, very cool. Now I noticed when they did the paint, check it out, the edge trim that is typically on the S2s is gone. So when they did the body work, they used some filler and reworked the seam where the upper and the lower body shell come together on these. And it came out, actually I like the look of it. It came out pretty good. And he decided not to go back with the S2 stickers. The badging for the car. As a matter of fact, there's very little badging anywhere. It's missing the Gisario, styled by Gisario badge that would go right there behind the front wheel. It's got the USA bumpers on it, which, I never thought, I didn't realize this before. It didn't occur to me when I was talking to him. He said, yeah, I like the front bumper because it gives the nose, it kind of accentuates the whole wedge look. It just extends that wedge a little farther forward. And I see what he's saying, and I never really thought of it that way before. But it is true, and it looks good. The paint's still in really good condition. Then they went ahead and they bought a new nose badge for it right there, Lotus. Don't think that's the original color scheme that came on the 78s. I think they were more black and white, but it's a good looking car. All right, so I'm going to put it up on the lift. We're going to take a look at what's going on. Right, so it's just a quick walk around. What I also want to do is just check the health of the motor to begin with. And so I'm going to do a compression test on all 4 cylinders. And then if I need to, depending on what the results are, I'm also going to do a leak down test to just get a good understanding of learning as much as I can about the condition of that head gasket. So I do want to know about that. 25,000 miles on the car, that's not a lot, but the severe overheating's got me a little worried. So because of that, I do want to just look into that head gasket a little bit. And then for the cooling, I think the first thing I'll do with that is I'm going to pressure test the system. So I'm going to pump it up, probably 15 PSI, something like that. And then listen for hissing leaks. Typically if it's a bad coolant leak, you can hear that air coming out. And then I'll walk around and look for leaks from the different pipes. So that's a good starting place to evaluate the cooling system of the car and the general health of the motor. So let's do that. All right, here we go. I'm under the car and I'm going to pan down to the garage floor to show you that sure enough, look at that. Typical Lotus peeing on my garage. There's some more over there. So, you know, what do you expect from a 78 Lotus? It's oil leaking everywhere. All right, so check this out. There is the cause of the major oil leak. And the best I can tell from here, so there's the oil cooler right there. And that's your line, the top line into the oil cooler and the return line right there. The top line to me is not, I'm looking at it, it's not a stock Lotus oil line, and it's failed. You can see that it's definitely, all the oil is coming out of that top pipe right there. So that's a pretty easy fix. It goes into the oil pump up there, and you could tell those fittings are not original Lotus fittings up there. So that's been replaced at some point, and there's a lot of stress on that hose with the angles they have it running at. I wonder if that contributed to the problem. And then while I was under here talking about the coolant leak, the header tank is right up there, and it's been leaking down on top of that that oil pipe. So that may have contributed to the rust you see on the fitting right there. Yeah, which could be why that pipe is leaking as well. So we got a couple problems I see right away. Here at the front of the car, you can see the radiators here. The two orange fans, that's the engine radiator. It actually stops right there. It doesn't go across the entire car. This yellow fan over here is strictly for when you turn the air conditioning on. So that doesn't run unless the AC is on. These are your two cooling fans right here. They look like they're in good shape. The owner says they work. They come on when they should. He did replace the auto switch, which is cool, but I'm still going to go through and look at all that stuff. The radiator, based on the age of the car, looks like it's been flushed before and rehabbed just a little bit. Looks like somebody painted it. I don't see any rust on it. It looks like it's in good condition, but it could be it's so old that it's just not dissipating heat anymore. And they make some really good aftermarket aluminum radiators. So I think we're going to put an aluminum radiator in here. So I'm going to drop that whole front unit out that holds the radiator plus the condenser, and disconnect all those hoses and replace all the hoses too. The hoses are all kind of in rough shape. Whoever worked on the car and replaced them, looks like they just went out and found American hoses that somewhat fit. They cut them and they put them on there, but they all seem to be leaking where they connect to the chassis pipes. You see that right there? See that green? My finger screwed up the focus. But that pipe's leaking right there. I don't know if the pipe's corroded or if the seal's just not good. So we've got to replace that. I think it's best to replace all the hoses at this point because I felt a lot of them and they're really soft. I think 90% of the hoses, coolant hoses on the car, where they attach to the aluminum pipes, whether it's the chassis pipe that goes through the backbone chassis, or coming out of the radiator, those connecting elbows, those aluminum pipes, they're all kind of like bubbling green just a little bit. All those crappy hoses somebody put on before that weren't stock Lotus hoses, they were just cut hoses that kind of matched the angle of what they needed. Probably pulled them off the shelf at whatever shop they were working at. They're all leaking. And all the hose clamps are different styles, different types. They're not great clamps. A lot of them are really rusted. So I think we're going to do all the coolant hoses on the car and put back all the nice metric clamps, stainless steel metric clamps that should be on there, so we get a really good seal on those new hoses. So you know what? We're gonna do that, and that's sort of step one of trying to figure out this overheating problem. So now I think we need to do the compression test and leak down test to make sure that the overheating can't be traced back to the head gasket, which nobody wants. All right, so let's do that. All right, so we had cylinder 2 and 3 were a little low on compression, and 1 and 4 were really good. We're going to do a leak down on 2 and 3. What I'm worried is that they're right next to each other and they're both low, so if there's a problem with the head gasket, we could be losing compression to the adjacent cylinder. So in other words, 2 could be leaking into 3, 3 could be leaking into 2. Since they're both low, we're going to do a leak down on those 2 cylinders. So I got my apparatus here, right, hooked up to the air line, and I'm just going to now adjust this thing till that needle hits 0. Plenty of videos on YouTube on how to do a leak down, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. All right, it looks good. I'm going to hook it up. I've already got my adapter in the cylinder here. Okay, so I run the test, and the leak down's at 23%, which is well within the green. So I mean, that checks out, right? That checks out. I'm not getting a lot of loss there. Cylinder is at top dead center on compression, so valves are closed, everything's closed off, no air leakage, and it's holding pretty well, so it checks out. So that's really good news. All right, now we just need to do cylinder 2. All right, so I ran the leak down on cylinder 2, same as cylinder 3. They're both in really good shape, so no leakage there. And so now it's on to pressure testing the coolant system. Cool, let's do it. Pressure test the cooling system. All right, I'm going to pop the cap off. Super simple. This is a cap that I use with the pressure tester, or the pressure injector. I don't know, the thing with the gauge that puts air in the system. So I'm going to put this cap on, tighten it down, attach the little fitting, and crank it up like I'm cranking up a bicycle tire. And I want to get to like just below 15 psi in the system. I'm only at 7 psi. 10 psi. All right, I've got like 13 and a half, 14 psi in here. And already I can hear the air coming out right down here underneath the header tank. It's like a crackling, hissing sound, and I can smell coolant. So I know I've got a coolant leak, a pretty good one, at the bottom of the header tank. So now I need to put the car, you know, I'm looking around, like for anything else. I'm listening to see if there's any other leaks that are apparent. I don't see anything else here jumping out at me. I do have to look a little more closely though to make sure. But I'm also going to put the car up on the lift and then go through and look at all the hoses underneath. See if I can see any bubbling, any coolant, anything like that. I'm going to listen for air coming out. This thing's already down to like 7 psi, so I'm losing pressure fast. So the system's not holding any pressure. All right, so that's something that, boom, we got something to look at, right? We got something to fix. Yeah, I can hear that crackling. It's really loud, that hissing. Now I'm down to 5 psi. So the system is not sealed. But I'm going to put it up on the lift, take a look at the radiator, take a look at the rest of the hoses, and then go from there. So I'm looking in from underneath the motor, and God, I want to point, but it's tough to do. Hold on. Right up here, this coolant hose is hitting the timing belt. So you can't see it, but right behind the timing belt right here, there's a big gouge taken out of that coolant pipe that goes up to the water pump. So we're going to pull all that out and get new stuff and put it in and make sure we've got good clearance up there. And you can see, even on this aluminum pipe right there, before I took the hose clamp off, it was looking like that. You can see the green that's just kind of oozing out of that pipe. So we're losing pressure there. Like I said, we were losing pressure everywhere on this system. Pretty amazing. Not completely everywhere, but I'd say 65% of all the connections in the cooling system were leaking. All right, so I'm going to keep getting at it and pull all this stuff out. And look at it on the bench a little closer. Well, it peed all over me, taking it out, but I got it out. So this is comes out of the chassis pipe, and then it turns. That cut hose right there, it goes up to the water pump. This one here comes around. This goes into the smaller chassis pipe that takes it up front for heating. And then this right here goes to the header tank. So taking a closer look, see if I can get some light in here. Yeah, there you go. Looks awesome, huh? It's good stuff. You know what? This hose right here did not even have a clamp on it when I took it out. There was no clamp whatsoever. You can just see that green all around there. Like all these things were just leaking. That hose is not too bad. Not terrible in there. Not terrible in there, but I'm going to take this all apart and check out the condition of the aluminum pipe, make sure it doesn't have any holes in it. Well, what do you know? Another hole. Another hole in the aluminum pipe, man. Oh, I got some buildup there. I don't see any other holes right off the bat, but I know I got to clean it up and look at it a little closer. Clean it up and look at it a little closer. See where we're at. Thing is, these chassis pipes, man, they're not easy to find. If you get lucky, you can find a couple on eBay, used ones, but I don't think they're making these. Maybe SJ does out in UK. I don't know. I'll have to get online and see what I can find. But another aluminum pipe to buy and replace. All right, let's keep going. Interesting. After pulling off the radiator hoses up front, these are the two tubes. After the radiator fluids come out of the chassis pipe, they go into a short rubber hose, and then they take 90-degree turns and head to the radiator. So these are those 90-degree turns. They're pretty jacked, man. They're pretty jacked up. A lot of corrosion. Nice little hole right there. It's not good. It's not good at all. Same thing with the other side, man. Just full of shit, full of crap. So have to clean these up and see what I can do with them. Well, I got most of the cooling system pulled out of the car now. The hoses, pipes, got these other pipes here, and I think this came out of the cooling system. I don't know if you can see that. That is a buildup. It's a chemical buildup. So what I think we got going on here is we had electrolysis happening in the cooling system. I did clean up this one chassis pipe, and you can see a big hole there. Got some disintegrated aluminum there. Same thing here inside the pipe. You can see that buildup. And I've got a bunch of pinholes here. So I've had to order, there's a big hole there. I had to order another pipe. But I wanted to talk about why this happened to this car. So electrolysis that takes place in the cooling system generally is going to happen from one or two ways. The first of which is old coolant, poor coolant. So, you know, perhaps the coolant in this car sat for a number of years and was never changed, and it lost its ability to prevent corrosion inside the cooling system. That's an option. Another thing is, with coolant leaks that we had on this car, if one of the owners was in an attempt just to get the car running again and fill the cooling system back up, if they're putting tap water or water from the home inside the cooling system, you know, that's got a different pH, and there's different chemicals in that water that can add to the actual corrosion in the cooling system. It's important to keep the pH of the coolant in the system in the right levels, and you do that with proper coolant and new coolant. So, you know, that's one of the options. Something else that can be occurring is we could have stray voltage in the cooling system, and that would cause it to force a chemical reaction with the aluminum as well. So what I want to do, because the buildup was really bad, I mean, this looks like a pebble, like a stone, but it's not. It's created through chemical reaction, and it's corroded aluminum, and you can find it inside the pipes all over the place. It's just really built up in there, and that's where the holes start to come through on the inside. So I think we're going to replace all these pipes. I'm going to have to, we're putting a new radiator in, so that's good, but I'm going to have to flush the heck out of that engine block to get all of this crap out of there. So on the floor, a lot of this was like a paste. There's so much buildup in the cooling system. The corrosion process was advanced, really advanced, and I think that's a big part of why this car just couldn't be cooled any longer, and I imagine it's all inside the radiator as well. So I need to flush that engine block really, really well, and most of the other parts going back on are going to be new in the cooling system. The only thing I haven't got to is the heater core inside the car and the heater hoses that run up to the heater core. That's a tough one. You know, those are, to get that out, you got to disassemble most of the dashboard to maneuver that heater box out from inside the interior. Well, I guess if I'm going to look at the heater core, I'd have to do that. I can replace the hoses without taking the heater box out, but to look at the core, I'd have to pull it. I don't really want to do that. So what I think I'm going to do is, after I flush the engine, reassemble everything, and then I will, I'm thinking this through as I'm talking. I need to check for stray electrical current in the cooling system. So to do that, I need to fill the system back up with coolant and turn the engine on, let it run, let it warm up so that thermostat opens. And then I'm going to take the positive lead of my voltmeter, I'm going to open the header tank, I'm going to put it in there. Then I'm going to put the negative on the battery, and I'm going to see if we have any current in the system. And if we do, could be an indication that the engine itself is not grounded well. Or other aftermarket parts, maybe the radio, I don't know. It's an indication that something's not grounded well on the car. So have to look at that as well. But for now, until we get these new aluminum pipes in, and I get these hoses in, I think all I can do is flush that engine block and maybe flush out the chassis pipes that go through the frame of the car, and then wait for the parts to come in, and we'll start to put this thing back together again. So, hey, you know, it's like I said before, at least we found something, right? It would have been difficult if I took the whole car apart and I didn't find anything. But, you know, looking in these pipes, I said it before, it's like barnacles that grow on the bottom of a boat. It's exactly what it looks like. They're barnacles growing on the inside of these aluminum pipes, and it's all from the electrolysis that's happening inside the car. So, all right, we'll keep rolling with this thing. All right, well, we are well on our way to figuring out the cooling problems on the S2 up there. So that's good news. Electrolytic corrosion. I call it electrolysis, electrolytic corrosion. To me, it's the same thing. And what's fascinating is you can have that generated even if you don't have some type of electrical short to the cooling system. Because of the dissimilar metals in the cooling system, copper in the core of the radiator. You've got aluminum pipes. You've got rubber. In some places, like you've got iron or steel and different types of metals. These different types of metals, when the water's flowing through and that water becomes acidic because the coolant is old, can actually create a charge in the car. So it can create electrical charge in the cooling system, and that's what leads to this type of corrosion. So, yeah, interesting stuff. I guess the moral of that story is don't let your coolant become acidic. Don't let it get out of that pH range. Change your coolant. It's worth it. You've seen what it does to the car, what it does to the aluminum pipes, and the havoc it can play. So I'm going to change my coolant every 2 years at least. I hope you guys do as well, because we learned a good lesson here today. All right, cool. I'm done. We will pick this up when we get some parts in. All right, later.